I found a camera, hidden in my Airbnb room. Hey Reddit, I don't know where else to put this. I'm not even sure if I'm doing this for closure or for a warning, but something about what happened still keeps me up at night. I've replayed it in my head over and over, trying to convince myself I'm exaggerating, that maybe I was paranoid, overworked, seeing things. But no, because I still have the photos, and I still wake up sometimes thinking I hear the soft click of a camera lens opening. Let me start from the beginning. I'm Evan, 28 years old, freelance photographer. Most of my work involves product photography, dull, repetitive shoots in my small apartment, barely enough sunlight, barely any creative freedom. So, a few months back, I decided to take a small break. Nothing fancy, just a weekend trip to somewhere quiet. I found a listing on Airbnb for a cozy guest house in a seaside town called Port Harlow, a few hours away from where I live. The pictures look perfect. A white painted cottage with blue shutters, surrounded by wildflowers and seagrass, 5 minutes from the beach. The reviews were all glowing. Peaceful, charming host. Felt like home. The host's name was Derek. Middle-aged guy, short bio. I love meeting travelers and sharing my cozy space by the sea. I didn't think much of it. I drove down on a Friday afternoon. The highway was almost empty, and by the time I reached Port Harlow, the sun was dipping behind a line of fog. The town was small, the kind of place where the grocery store doubles as a post office and the only traffic light blinks yellow. Derek's Airbnb was on the edge of town, down a narrow gravel road lined with pine trees. I almost missed the turn because the sign was half covered in moss. When I pulled into the driveway, I remember thinking, this place is too quiet. No other cars. No sounds but the wind and the faint crash of waves somewhere in the distance. The house itself looked just like the pictures, maybe even better. Clean, rustic, with a little porch and hanging lanterns. Derek came out to greet me right away. He was friendlier than I expected. Overly so. Evan, he called out before I even got out of the car. You made it. Long drive, huh? He had this wide smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. His handshake lingered a second too long. He kept talking about the weather, the traffic, how few visitors come this time of year. He asked what I did, where I was from, whether I'd come alone. I remember the way he asked that last one. You came alone, right? I laughed awkwardly. Yeah, just needed a change of scene. Good, he said, nodding, then quickly added, I mean, good for you. Sometimes we all need that. He gave me a tour of the place. The house had 2 bedrooms, one locked. Storage, he said. A living room, small kitchen, and bathroom. Everything looked tidy, freshly cleaned. Except there was something weirdly staged about it, like a model home. The books on the shelf were all untouched random old travel guides. The fridge had 2 bottles of water and nothing else. The air smelled faintly of bleach. When I unpacked, Derek said, by the way, just text me when you leave or come back, okay? The area is remote. I like to know my guests are safe. That struck me as odd. I'd stayed at plenty of Airbnbs before, and no one had ever asked for check-in, check-out updates like that. But he seemed harmless, so I just nodded. That first evening was uneventful. I made some instant noodles, went for a short walk near the cliffs, and took a few photos of the ocean. The light was perfect golden hour, reflecting off the waves like melted copper. For the first time in weeks, I felt relaxed. When I got back, the house felt colder. The kind of stillness that presses on your eardrums. I double-checked the windows, locked the door, and settled into bed with my laptop. At around midnight, as I was editing photos, I noticed a faint blinking light near the ceiling. Tiny, red. I frowned. Probably just a smoke detector, I thought. But then I realized smoke detectors usually blink green, not red. I stood on the bed and squinted. It was definitely red and steady, not flickering like a dying battery. That's when I saw something else, a tiny round glass bulb right next to the light. A lens. I froze. Every rational part of me tried to dismiss it. Maybe it was some fancy air sensor or carbon detector. But my gut screamed otherwise. I took out my phone, switched on the flashlight, and aimed it up. There it was. A pinhole camera tucked inside the smoke detector casing. I backed away so fast I nearly tripped over my backpack. My heart was hammering. Okay, calm down, I told myself. Maybe it's for security. Maybe the owner installed it for safety, but why was it aimed directly at the bed? The longer I stared, the worse it felt. That wasn't safety, that was surveillance. I grabbed a chair and stood on it to get a closer look. The casing was cheap plastic, easy to twist open. I hesitated. Part of me didn't want to know, but curiosity won. Inside was a small black circular camera, the kind you buy online for $30. A wire ran from it into the ceiling. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from Derek. Hey, Evan, everything okay in there? I nearly dropped the phone. My throat went dry. I hadn't messaged him. I hadn't moved my car. How did he know I was awake? I forced my fingers to type, yeah, all good, just getting ready for bed. Great. Sleep well. I sat on the bed, staring at that message for a long time. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound made me flinch, the creak of the pipes, the hum of the fridge, even the wind against the windows. Around 2 a.m., I turned off the lights and used my camera's viewfinder to scan the room. A trick I learned years ago, hidden cameras often reflect infrared light. When I swept the lens across the vent above the desk, something glinted. A small, circular reflection, just like before. Another one. I climbed up on the desk chair and looked closer. A hole drilled into the vent's corner, and behind it, the unmistakable glimmer of glass. 2 cameras. I felt sick. My skin crawled. I grabbed my duffel bag and started shoving my stuff inside. I didn't care if it was 3 a.m. I was leaving. But before I walked out, I checked the bathroom. Something about the mirror felt wrong, too thick, too heavy. I tapped it with my knuckle. It made a hollow sound. I held my phone's flashlight to the edge and peered behind it. And there it was. Camera number 3. This one was positioned lower angled toward the shower. That broke me. I wasn't just being watched, I was being recorded. I wanted to smash everything, rip the walls apart, confront Derek, but a deeper, colder instinct told me not to. Not yet. If he was watching me in real time, he'd know the second I found everything. I needed to act like I hadn't. So I took a deep breath, set my bag down, and forced myself to sit back on the bed, pretending to scroll on my phone, pretending everything was fine. I texted Derek again. Hey man, I realized I forgot to ask, is there a security camera in here? Just curious. His reply came instantly. Just the one by the front porch. Why? Oh, no reason. Just saw a light inside and wasn't sure. All good. No indoor cameras, promise. The smiley face made my stomach turn. I stayed awake till dawn. The moment sunlight broke, I walked out, got in my car, and drove straight to a nearby diner. I told myself I'd figure out what to do next. Maybe call the police. Maybe confront Derek in daylight. But when I sat down with my coffee, I noticed something else. A car parked across the street. A gray sedan. Engine idling. And in the driver's seat, Derek, just sitting there, watching me through the window. That was the moment I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. I wasn't a guest. I was a target. And as much as I wanted to believe I'd escaped that house, I had a feeling that the cameras weren't the only things keeping an eye on me. I sat in that diner for nearly an hour, pretending to drink my coffee while keeping one eye on the gray sedan across the street. Every time I looked up, Derek was still there, not moving, not even pretending to eat or check his phone, just watching. When the waitress came over to refill my cup, I mumbled something about needing to step out for a call, left a 20 under the saucer, and slipped out the back door into the alley. I don't know why I thought hiding from him in daylight would help, but when every nerve in your body screams danger, you don't reason, you react. The alley stank of old fish and seaweed. I ducked behind a trash bin and peeked around the corner. The sedan's engine cut off. Derek opened his door. Only it wasn't Derek. Or rather, it wasn't the same man from the Airbnb profile photo. The guy in the picture had a round face, kind eyes, and a slightly goofy grin, the kind of smile you'd trust when booking a stay. The man stepping out of the car looked wrong, thinner, older. His hair was shaved close, his eyes sunken. He didn't walk like someone running errands. He moved like someone checking perimeters. My throat went dry. Had Derek sold the place? Had someone else hacked his account? I snapped a photo of the man on my phone from behind the dumpster, grainy, but good enough to compare later, and slipped down the alley toward Main Street. Port Harlow looked different now that I was seeing it through paranoia. Every window felt like an eye. Every face I passed seemed to linger half a second too long. Maybe it was small-town curiosity, or maybe word travels fast when strangers start asking questions. Either way, I kept moving. The diner's neon sign flickered behind me. Inside, through the glass, the waitress caught my eye. She tilted her head, puzzled, then looked toward the street where the sedan had been. It was gone. By the time I reached the public library parking lot, my hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold my phone. I pulled up the Airbnb app and tapped on the listing. Still active. Still 5 stars. Same photos. I zoomed in on Derek's face. Not the same man. That was the moment I decided to go back to the house. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed proof that what I saw was real. If I went to the police with just a story, they'd laugh me out of the building. So I drove back. The gravel crunched beneath my tires as I pulled into the driveway. Mid-afternoon sunlight painted the porch in orange stripes. No gray sedan. No movement inside. I grabbed my camera bag, switched my DSLR to video mode, and hit record before stepping out. Okay, I whispered to the lens. It's 3:17 p.m. I'm back at the Airbnb where I found 3 hidden cameras. If something happens, a door creaked. The front door. My heart slammed against my ribs. Then a voice. Hey there, you're back already. I turned. The man standing in the doorway wasn't anyone I'd seen before. Derek, I managed. He smiled, confused. Yeah, you must be Evan. Everything okay? You left kind of early this morning. This guy looked mid-40s, maybe 50, beard stubble, different haircut, same clothes as the Derek from last night, but definitely not the one from the profile picture. I stammered, You're not who I talked to yesterday. He laughed softly. Pretty sure I am. Long week. Huh? No, I said, pulling out my phone. This is you, right? I showed him the Airbnb profile photo. He leaned closer, squinted, and chuckled. That's my brother, actually. He used to manage the listing before I took over. Guess I forgot to change the picture. Sorry about that. Every instinct screamed a lie. Your brother, I repeated. Yeah, he moved out west last year. He rubbed the back of his neck. You okay? You look pale. I found something, I said, inside, in the smoke detector. His expression didn't flicker. Not once. Oh, must be the motion sensor. That thing's sensitive. Goes off even with the steam. I stared at him. There was a camera in it. Camera? He frowned. No. Probably a misunderstanding. We've had electricians doing maintenance. Maybe they left equipment. I took pictures. I lied. Of all 3, his smile faltered for just a fraction of a second. Then it came back. Too wide. Too forced. Mind if I see those? I already sent them to someone, I said. Silence. Wind hissed through the pines behind us. Then he nodded slowly. Well, if you're uncomfortable, you can check out early. Full refund, no problem. He stepped aside, gesturing to the open doorway. Something in me refused to cross that threshold again. I'll grab my stuff later, I said, backing toward my car. Thanks. Suit yourself? He called after me, still smiling. I'll make sure everything's tidy when you're ready. As I drove away, my pulse pounded so hard I thought I'd pass out. Back at the diner, the waitress spotted me instantly. "You look like hell," she said. Her name tag read, Maya. She poured me a fresh coffee without asking. "That guy still following you? How'd you—" "I saw him watching you earlier. Tall, shaved head?" I nodded. She sighed. "You're not the first visitor who's complained about that Airbnb. People say it's cheap and quiet, but weird stuff happens. A couple from New York vanished last summer after staying there." I nearly dropped my mug. "Vanished? Police said they left town. Locals don't buy it." She leaned closer. "If you've got proof, you should go to Sheriff Halden. He's 2 blocks down." The sheriff's office looked like an old post office converted on a budget. Faded flag, dusty blinds, one bored deputy behind the counter. When I explained what I'd found, Halden listened with that polite half-smile older cops use when they're already deciding not to believe you. "So, you're saying there were hidden cameras in your rental?" he asked. "Yes, 3 of them. Bedroom, vent, bathroom mirror. I've got footage. Well, I thought I did." He tilted his head. "Thought? My SD card. It's missing." Even saying it out loud made my stomach drop. I'd left my bag in the passenger seat when I went into the diner earlier. I hadn't checked it since. Halden scribbled something. "Son, Airbnb hosts sometimes use cameras for security. Outside cameras. Inside's against policy, sure, but probably a mix-up. I can call him if you'd like." "Please do." He picked up the phone, dialed a number, waited. "Derek? Sheriff Halden here. Yeah, got a guest named Evan, says he found cameras." "Uh-huh, right. Okay." He hung up and smiled at me. "He says you're mistaken. Wants to apologize for scaring you." "That's it?" I asked. "That's it. Look, I'll file a note in case more complaints come in. Meanwhile, best thing you can do is head home. Enjoy the weekend somewhere else." I walked out in a haze of disbelief. Maya was waiting by her car. "Let me guess," she said. "He didn't care." I shook my head. "He called Derek. They're friendly." "Figures." She handed me a napkin with her number scribbled on it. "If you decide to leave town, text me. I get off at 9. I drove back to the Airbnb one last time. I don't know what I expected. Maybe to grab my things and be done with it. Maybe to prove to myself that the cameras were still there. But when I walked inside, everything was different. The smoke detector casing was brand new. The vent had been unscrewed, replaced, spotless. The mirror, gone, replaced with a thinner one. No signs of tampering, no wires, nothing. It was as if I'd imagined the whole thing. My bag was exactly where I left it, except lighter. When I unzipped it, my camera was there, but the SD card slot was empty. Every file, every bit of evidence, gone. I sat on the bed, head in my hands, trying to breathe. My reflection in the new mirror looked distorted, warped at the edges, like the glass itself didn't want me there. I grabbed my stuff, loaded it into the car, and slammed the door. Enough, I was done. Halfway down the gravel road, I realized I left my tripod inside. For a second, I considered turning back, but the thought of stepping through that door again made my skin crawl. I kept driving. That night, I checked into the only motel in town. Run down, but it had locks that I controlled. I triple-checked the windows, scanned every corner, and still couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching. I set my camera on the nightstand, lens facing the door, just in case. Around midnight, I finally drifted off. A faint scritch woke me, paper sliding against carpet. I sat up. A white envelope lay under the door. No footsteps, no car outside, just silence. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Stop digging. You're not supposed to be here." No signature. No handwriting. Just block letters printed in black ink. I read it 3 times, heart pounding, until the words blurred. Then I noticed something else. At the bottom corner of the page, barely visible in pencil, were 3 numbers. The 17th of June, 22. The same date the couple from New York disappeared. I used to think paranoia was something that happened to people who wanted to see patterns. You know, the type who scroll conspiracy forums at 3 a.m. looking for meaning in static. But after what happened in that Airbnb, I stopped believing in coincidences. Because in Port Harlow, the entire town was watching. The morning after the note appeared under my door, I didn't sleep. I sat in the corner of the motel room with my back against the wall, my phone flashlight aimed at the door like that could stop whoever had been inside. The note, "Stop digging. You're not supposed to be here," sat on the nightstand next to my car keys. I must have reread it 100 times. The handwriting was neat, almost feminine, like someone had written it calmly, without rushing. That scared me more than if it had been angry or sloppy. At sunrise, I called Maya. She picked up on the second ring. "Evan, you okay?" "No," I said. "I think someone's watching me. The cameras are gone. The footage too. But whoever was behind this, they know I know." There was a pause on the line. I could hear the clatter of dishes in the diner behind her. "Meet me at the Dock Cafe," she said. "We'll figure this out." When I got there, the diner was mostly empty. The air smelled like burnt toast and old coffee. Maya was already at a corner booth, flipping through a local newspaper. She looked up and slid something across the table, an old laminated flyer. "Another missing person," she said. "Tourist. 2 months ago." The name read Carla Jensen. The photo showed a smiling woman with curly red hair standing in front of the same Airbnb house. My stomach dropped. "She stayed there?" I asked. "Yeah. She booked the place for a week, never checked out." "What did the police say?" Maya gave a tired laugh. "Same thing they told us. Probably ran off. Happens all the time with travelers apparently." I stared at the grainy photo. I remembered the review section on the Airbnb listing. Only one visible review, short and bland. "Nice place. Private, quiet." But the text looked off, like it had been edited. I asked Maya if there had been more. She nodded. Yeah, there was a 1-star review. It was deleted within a day. I saw it before it vanished. What did it say? Her eyes flicked toward the window before she leaned closer. It said, "Don't stay here. They're watching you through the vents." The words made my chest tighten. It wasn't just me. I wasn't the first one who saw the cameras. And if she was right, I wasn't the first one to disappear either. We decided to go digging ourselves. If the sheriff wasn't going to help, we'd find answers another way. Our first stop was the Airbnb office listed under the town's property rentals maintenance. It sat near the marina, a small white building with tinted windows and a flickering open sign. The woman behind the counter smiled when we walked in. Too wide, too perfect. "Hi there, looking to rent a property?" I said. "Actually, I just wanted to ask about one of your listings. The Lighthouse Retreat, 42 Marina Road." Her smile didn't falter, but something in her eyes shifted. "I'm sorry," she said, tapping her keyboard. "That property's not available anymore. Was deactivated last month." "Do you know why?" I asked. She shook her head. "Maintenance issues." "Who owns it?" "I'm afraid I can't give that information." Maya tried a different approach. "We just need to make sure our friend Carla's safe. She stayed there in August." The woman froze. Her fake smile finally broke. "You should leave," she said quietly. "What?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Just leave Port Harlow, please." That was the first time I realized the whole town wasn't just weird. It was afraid. When we stepped outside, I noticed something else. Across the street, mounted under the eaves of a coffee shop, was a black dome camera, the same kind as the one I found inside the air vent. Then another, above the gas station. Then another at the intersection near the pier, all stamped with the same silver label, Harlow Property Systems. I followed their line of sight with my eyes. Every camera, every angle, pointed inward toward the heart of the town, toward us. We drove to the pawn shop next. Maya said, "People sometimes turned in random electronics, their tourist things, forgotten gear, stuff washed up from rentals." The shop smelled like rust and cigarette smoke. The owner, a gray-bearded man with half-moon glasses, barely looked up when we entered. Maya went straight to the counter. "Hey, we're looking for any cameras or laptops that might have come from the Airbnb near the marina. You get anything like that lately?" He shrugged. "Maybe. Got a stack of laptops in the back." I followed him to a shelf piled high with electronics. One of them, a silver MacBook with a cracked corner, had a sticker on it. It read, "CJ." My pulse spiked. "CJ, Carla Jensen." We asked to see it. The owner said if we paid a small deposit, we could check it out. When I opened the lid, the screen flickered, then booted up to a desktop. No password. There was one folder on it, just one, named "Do Not Delete." Inside were dozens of video files, each one dated, each one recorded from slightly different angles. The background was unmistakable. The Airbnb bedroom. I hit play on one file. The video showed Carla sitting on the bed, talking to the camera, whispering like she knew someone was listening. "They moved it again," she said. "I heard something behind the vent. It's not just one, there's more. Every time I try to leave, someone's standing outside." Her voice trembled. Next file. This time, the lights were off. Carla's silhouette lay in bed. Then in the faint night vision glow, the door creaked open. A figure stepped inside. Not clearly visible, just a dark outline. The person moved toward her, paused at the foot of the bed, and leaned closer to the camera lens as if checking it. Then everything cut to black. I didn't breathe for a few seconds. Maya's hands shook as she clicked the next file. It was corrupted, but the audio worked. A muffled voice whispered something I couldn't make out except the last two words. "Coming in." The same words from Carla's deleted review. We copied the videos onto my flash drive. When we turned to give the laptop back, the pawn shop owner was watching us expressionless. "You shouldn't have seen that," he said. "What do you mean?" Maya asked. He pointed toward the window. "They'll know." That was all he said before walking into the back room and locking the door. We didn't wait around to find out what they meant. That night, we holed up at Maya's place above the diner. It was small, one bed, one window, but it felt safer than the motel. I transferred the footage to my laptop. While it copied, I noticed something odd. The timestamps. Carla's last video, the one where she whispered, "They're coming in," was dated exactly 2 months before the day I arrived. Same day of the month, same date pattern, like I'd walked into her ghost Bergie's time slot. Sometime after midnight, I went to the window for air. That's when I saw it. Across the street, the bakery's windows were dark, but one of the glass panes reflected a faint red light, blinking, just like the Airbnb vent. I scanned further: the bookstore, the post office, even the church steeple. All had that same faint red pulse beating in perfect rhythm. And for the first time, I realized it wasn't random. The entire town, every shop, every home, every streetlight was part of one massive surveillance grid, and it was watching me. Maya was asleep when I packed my bag. I left her a note. "Don't follow me. I'll end this." I couldn't drag her deeper into this. I drove to the old house again, parked a block away, and approached on foot. The front porch light was off, but the door was slightly ajar. Inside, the air smelled of bleach. Every camera was gone, just like before. The vents were clean, the smoke detector new. Except for one thing. On the nightstand was a phone I didn't recognize. It was already recording. The screen showed me standing there, looking down at it. Then the display flickered and switched to a live feed from outside the house. Someone was standing on the road, pointing another camera straight at me. I ran to the window. No one there, but when I looked back at the phone, the screen now showed Maya's apartment. Live. That's when it hit me. It was never about watching tourists for fun. It was systematic. A town-wide network. Someone was collecting people through surveillance, through fear. And now, Maya was on their list. I grabbed the phone, bolted out the door, and sped toward the diner. As I turned onto Main Street, the streetlights blinked off in a wave one after another like the town itself was shutting its eyes. When I reached her apartment, the door was open. The lights were off. The red blink of a camera reflected off the ceiling, and on the table where my note should have been was a new one, written in the same calm, perfect handwriting. "You should have left when you could, Evan. When I was a kid, my dad used to tell me that cameras were meant to capture memories. Now, sitting behind the wheel of my car at 3 a.m. in Port Harlow, I realized some cameras weren't capturing memories, they were manufacturing nightmares." I found Maya sitting on the curb outside the diner, shaking, clutching the note that had replaced mine. Her eyes were glassy, the same way mine had been when I saw that first red blinking light in the Airbnb vent. "I didn't know where you went," she whispered. "I woke up and there was someone outside my window, just standing there." "Did they follow you?" She shook her head. "No, but the lights. The lights were watching." I wanted to tell her everything. I saw the live feed of her apartment, the phone that showed me in real time from across town, but the words tangled in my throat. All I could manage was, "We need to get out of here. Tonight." We packed in silence. She grabbed a duffel from under the bed while I loaded my bag with Carla's laptop, my hard drive, and the mysterious phone I found at the house. The screen still flickered every few seconds, random static. Sometimes a face, sometimes my reflection. At one point, it even displayed a chat overlay, like a live stream interface. Messages appeared in rapid bursts. "User 47, is he leaving? Cam_fan 88, don't let him go. Lurker 001. OMG, he's bringing the girl." I dropped the phone like it burned me. "Maya, it's a stream," I said. "Someone's watching us right now." We didn't take the main highway, every instinct screamed, that's where they'd expect us. Instead, we took the back road through the woods that led toward Route 9. But 5 minutes later, the GPS glitched. The blue arrow spun wildly, then recentered back at the Airbnb. What the hell? I restarted it, but it kept rerouting the same way. We tried following the physical road signs instead, yet somehow, every turn looped back to familiar ground. The lighthouse, the marina, the gas station with the cameras, like the town was folding in on itself. Maya pressed her hands against her ears. "It's like we're trapped inside a maze." I glanced at the sky. No planes, no stars, just low gray clouds reflecting the town's faint orange light. Then the car radio came alive with static, even though it wasn't on. Through the fuzz, a voice crackled low, distorted. "Smile for the camera, Evan." I slammed the brakes. The road was empty. We ditched the car near an old maintenance shed and continued on foot. I tried calling 911, but the screen froze mid-dial. Then the battery dropped from 82% to 1% and shut off. Maya's phone did the same. No service. No GPS. Just silence. And then faintly from the trees clicked, like a camera shutter. We ran until the road curved back toward the same white house, the Airbnb. I swear, neither of us meant to come here, but somehow every direction led back to it. The front door was open again. "Evan," Maya whispered. "It's pulling us back." "I know," I said, "but maybe that's where the signal's coming from. Maybe that's where we stop it." Inside, the air was colder than outside. Everything smelled metallic, sterile, like a hospital room that had been scrubbed too clean. The living room looked identical to before, except the furniture was gone. Every wall was stripped bare except for small circular marks, mounts where cameras used to hang. And near the corner, half hidden behind a rug, was something I hadn't noticed before. A trapdoor, sealed with a heavy padlock. I knelt beside it. "Basement," I muttered. Maya swallowed. "You think that's where—" "Yeah," I said. "That's where it ends." We found a crowbar in the shed and snapped the lock. The metal groaned as I pulled open the hatch, releasing a wave of cold, recycled air that smelled like dust and damp wires. Concrete steps descended into darkness. Maya clicked on her phone flashlight, and we started down. At the bottom was a narrow hallway. The walls weren't wood or brick like the rest of the house. They were lined with steel panels, wires, and blinking routers. And at the far end of the hall, a sliding door with a digital keypad. To our right, a whiteboard with scribbles. "Cam grid, sync, Harlow_Maine, 258 units active." 258. Maya's voice trembled. "They weren't just watching you. They were watching everyone." I stared at the keypad. 4 digits. I tried. 2580. Wrong. 0000. Wrong. Then, just to test, I entered my check-in date. 0907. The light turned green. The door sliced open with a hiss, and what we saw inside didn't feel real. It was a room, no. A chamber filled with walls of monitors, rows and rows stacked to the ceiling, each one showing a different live feed. Bedrooms, bathrooms, living rooms. Different houses, different people. Some sleeping, some cooking, some changing clothes, completely unaware. At the center of the room was a massive screen labeled Live Feed 01, Guest Stream Port, Harlow. And on it was me. Footage from last night sitting in the motel, holding the note, staring into space. Maya covered her mouth. "Oh my God, it's not just surveillance," I said. "It's content." She looked at me. "Content? They're streaming us," I said. "Selling live access to people. We're part of a show." I started searching the control panels. The system was connected to multiple servers, not local ones, but remote networks labeled viewer nodes. Each had usernames, chat overlays, even donation counts. Some screens displayed a chat box scrolling non-stop. VIP_sub_14. Move the camera closer. User 27. OMG, he found the basement. Admin, Keep stream clean, new subscribers joining. I wanted to throw up. We have to shut it down, Maya said. I nodded. Find the main power. We tore through the cables until we found a heavy circuit box on the far wall. I grabbed a wrench and swung it at the lever. Sparks flew, several screens flickered and died. But before I could hit it again, a voice echoed from the stairs. Well, it said calmly, you've seen too much. It was Derek. At least that's what I thought. But as he stepped into the light, I realized he wasn't the man from the Airbnb photo or the one who first greeted me. This was someone else entirely same build, different face. Behind him stood two others, both wearing black caps and gloves. Maya backed against the console. Who are you? She demanded. Derek smiled faintly. Property maintenance. You're filming people, I said. Selling their lives for entertainment. He tilted his head. You call it filming. We call it observation. The guests signed the consent forms without reading them. The fine print gives us access. That's not consent, I snapped. That's exploitation. He shrugged. Semantics. The two men moved closer. One of them grabbed Maya's arm. I swung the wrench, hitting his shoulder. He stumbled back, shouting. The other lunged for me. We crashed into a wall of monitors, shattering screens, sparks flying. I could hear Derek yelling, do not damage the feed. That just made me swing harder. The second hit cracked the circuit box. The lights flickered, plunging half the basement into red emergency glow. Maya broke free, grabbed a metal pole, and jammed it into the main power lever. The entire room went dark. The only light came from the emergency exit sign above the stairs. Run, I yelled. We bolted up the steps as footsteps pounded behind us. Derek shouted, you'll never leave the loop. The door slammed shut behind us, sealing the basement in darkness. We didn't stop running until we reached the car. The sky had turned gray, hinting at dawn. I jammed the keys into the ignition and started. The road, for once, looked open. As we sped away, the town behind us flickered, every streetlight flashing like a dying circuit. I kept my eyes on the rearview mirror, half expecting to see headlights following us. But all I saw was my own reflection. And then I noticed it. A faint red blink inside the mirror's corner. My stomach dropped. Maya, I whispered. There's a camera in the car. Before she could respond, the dashboard screen lit up with a single message. Thank you for participating in guest stream. We didn't stop until we crossed the state line. The moment we did, both our phones powered back on. Full signal, full battery, like nothing had happened. I pulled over at a gas station and went inside, shaking. Bought a burner laptop, sat in the car and started typing. That's what you're reading right now. I uploaded every file, every photo, every recording, the footage from Carla's laptop, the screenshots from the control room, the chat logs. If I disappear after this, at least you'll know the truth. Because Port Harlow isn't a town, it's a stage. Every house, every business, every street corner is wired into one network. They lure guests in, film their lives, and sell it as voyeuristic entertainment under something called guest stream. If you ever see an Airbnb listing with property managed by Harlow Systems, don't book it. Don't even click it. You're not renting a place to stay. You're signing up to be the show. I just finished typing that last line when my laptop screen dimmed for a second. I thought it was the battery until the webcam indicator light blinked on. Then a notification appeared on the top right corner. Recording in progress. I reached up, covered the camera with my thumb, and whispered, smile for the camera. All right, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the story. We have so many more amazing stories coming your way, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Our goal is to reach 100K subscribers by the end of this year, and we'd love for you to be part of this journey. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.